sports were colossal, squealing neighbors we before your is the here.
Okay, so, whoa. What's up, everybody? This is Francisco here with my good buddies Andrew and Charles for Sports Goofs number 165. I think I got that right. Yeah, I think so. It was the last one that were sponsored by Factor. So, look at the promo codes and the link on the stuff on the screen or on Twitch. You can see it there. And we're doing the things where you can buy some nice meal kits that are waiting for you at your door after a long day of work and you're just tired and you don't want to go around the shopping cart and looking for food. You just need to get home and just be comfortable in your own space. And that's what they do here. They send it right to your door. You grab it. They got the instructions there. They're chef-prepared instructions with all the ingredients that you need. You just do what you need to do. Follow the instruction. You got yourself some good meal, so you get 50% off your first box from us, I guess, or from them. We're just telling you about it. All right, well, Andrew, how's it going?
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Just working today. How about yourself?
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Yeah. No, we're good. We're good. Let's see. Oh, that works. Okay. Ooh. I got a soundboard now, so now I'm messing around with it. I gotta find a nice little routine for this, but this is I've been wanting to do this for quite a bit, and I thought I had to buy a separate thing, but they got different little apps and stuff for this, so But let's wind back. Okay. All right, Charles, how are you doing?
I'm very full.
Oh,
I sent you guys that photo of what I ate. I don't know how I'm going to live.
Well,
if I make it through the show without falling asleep.
You're not.
Or I'll die in one day.
You're
but that thing, what I ate, Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's a good death, as I said.
Oh, boy.
Very good death.
This is going to be you later on. Oh, man. I'm going to have so much fun with this.
This is the show where we have new toys. Oh, Jesus. You were playing this one out. That might be me. That might not be me. We're going to see what my constitution can take me to be.
Yay. Okay. So, anyways.
Exciting times.
World Baseball Classic is over. We got some thoughts on that because that happened. So that was a sports thing that happened. I wanted to do a sports show, everybody. We actually watched sports, so that's a thing that happened. March Madness still going on. Still, my team is still alive, so that's cool. And really, those are the only two things that I have been noting as far as the sports world is concerned. And then I think I jotted down some things in my notes app on my phone that let's see, I want to make sure. I hear a cat noise. I don't know if Charles got his own soundboard back there. But,
no, it's just the cat coming in. He wants to chime in.
When we get Luna to chime in as well.
What the fuck, man?
On Andrew's side, you can just get Luna to chime in. Anyways, I'm trying to open the notes up, see if I had some ideas here. Speaking of food. All right, so I guess this is an earlier thing, but it's basically... Anyways, so lately, work has been kind of, whatever, and I get home and I'm really not in the mood to cook as of late. And I've kind of just been pushing toward all of my my tokens as far as my calories and food are concerned toward the lunch, and so Publix has been kind of coming in handy for that. They got the app. You can just order you can pre-order your subs there, and then it's all ready to go. Like in half an hour, you can just go out and pick it up. So I've been planning like my hearings and stuff around it. So I'm like, okay, I'll probably be out by, let's say, 1 o'clock. So I can just plan out so I can be like at 1:15. I can, get out of work and just drop on by, grab my sandwich from Publix, and then head back and eat some lunch, right? So it's been coming in clutch lately. The app's pretty cool. You can just customize your sandwich there. You don't have to wait in the big line, especially during like lunch rush and stuff, because sometimes that happens. You can just pop on in there and you just pick it up right from the little thing. They keep it warm for you, and then you can pick up chips or drink and stuff like that on your way out. So that's been coming in clutch for me. However, for whatever reason, I was ordering the sandwich. This happened recently, so I was ordering the sandwich, right? And they keep your savings from like your customizations from last time, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't have to make any more changes. Like, okay, you can just copy and paste whatever you had from before. Cool beans. And then I don't know what I was, and I think I was kind of trying to juggle the hearing and ordering my sandwich during a hearing or something. I was looking at the app and I was not really paying attention. And I was just like, okay, yeah, get the same thing. And then for whatever reason, I think I saw something. I'm like, maybe I want to make a change. Have a different type of topping or, add some, I don't know what I was trying to do. But I did that and I hit like clear all on it. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then I thought, okay, well, I thought it was clearing all of I think I was trying to take out the mayo from my sandwich. I didn't want mayo on it. And so I ordered the sandwich, earrings over, whatever. I'm going to pick it up, and I get it. I come back to my office, got my sandwich. I'm all excited. It's warm and everything like that. I'm just like, this is my only meal for the day, guys. And I open it, and I got the white bread that I wanted, got the chicken tenders that I wanted, I got the Swiss cheese that I wanted, but I didn't get nothing else.
Oh my god, so you just got basically a sandwich that you made at home.
No, I wouldn't have a sandwich like that at home. I get a little something. So I'm like, what happened? What is this madness? And I thought they had made a mistake. I'm like, there's no way. And I rechecked my order. I'm like, when I hit clear all, I cleared out all the toppings. There was no lettuce, no tomatoes, nothing. And I'm staring at this sandwich now. I'm sure, the person who prepared it was just like,
this is a fucking weirdo.
This was the most weird sandwich, and I'm like, oh, okay, fine. That this is, and I didn't have any dipping sauce or anything to try and make it, to salvage it. And I was already
good.
I'm sure. I just pretended like I had chicken tenders that just had cheese on it with bread. I still ate it because I was still I needed to eat something. But it was the most surprise. I look forward to this every day, guys. This is the highlight of my workday. And I just opened this to what is this madness, this monstrosity? What am I looking at? And lo and behold, I hit that clear all button thinking I just removed the mail, and it removed everything. So that was my lunch a couple days ago. And, it happens, right? You accidentally order something wrong and you don't get, and it was your fault. It wasn't their fault. They followed the order to a T. So Publix really, whoever prepared that, good on you, because that was all me right there. So just me, that was me. That's how I felt right there. A slow clap for me, guys. Alrighty, so that was my adventure for lunch. So yeah, the complete opposite of whatever you were having, Charles. That was doused in all sorts of things. Am I the only one on here? Hello? I don't hear nobody.
I can hear you.
Okay, I think Charles backed out. So, all right. Well, Andrew, World Baseball Classic. We'll wait for him to pop back on now. I think I think he for whatever reason, I think he lost connection or something like that. He'll pop back in. But okay, so WBC, the tournament's over. It's done. Oh man. First, Andrew, your thoughts, the culmination of this event.
I mean, it was as good as advertised. 2017 was great. I mean, it was great that the U.S. won. That kind of really put a cap on it. I wish the U.S. could have pulled through here, but I think John Smoltz mentioned it a few times on the broadcast and I'm not going to put this in my petty bracket because it's not worth, it's such a minor thing, but I really wish they would have, whether the U.S. was in it or not, would have broadcast the game on Fox proper instead of FS1.
Yeah. That's a good.
This whole tournament leading up to it, everyone's talking about, almost kind of like this is a make or break year for the tournament. I mean, it seems like it is every year. Every time it's played, 2017, the interest is a little bit more each year.
I returned.
There he is.
Hey,
Okay.
Charles.
Anyways, we're on the WBC. We're done with my sandwich story.
Alrighty. The moment everybody's been waiting for. In the
Indeed.
group chat and the masses who had to wait 2 weeks as we were deciding whether or not it was a real sport. A real sporting event, I should
Andrew,
say.
continue.
The momentum of this thing seems to be building every time that it's played. Israel. Israel in 2017 was playing out in Korea, I think. So I was lucky. The games were being brought. By the way, the games were actually broadcast. This is a good move. Previously, they were broadcast on, I think, MLB Network. This time, they were actually broadcast on channels that people could readily access.
Yeah, on like an actual basic cable package.
Right.
Yeah.
Fox for only 1 or 2 games, maybe. Certainly 1. FS1 for the majority of them. Occasionally, a couple were on FS2, which is a little harder to come by. And then there were a couple that were on Tubi at the very beginning of the tournament. But Tubi is free, so anyone can access it. So, realistically speaking, I'd say a solid majority of the games, pretty much anyone could see, or a vast majority of people could see in the United States with a relatively basic package. So, I mean, it was great for the growth of this tournament. It's got everybody talking. I think having the U.S. go so far really helped. It seems like the U.S. is the last country that seems to be getting on board with this thing. Ironically, considering that this was started by Major League Baseball in the very beginning, and it's still run by them for the most part.
Indeed.
As you tweeted last night, U.S. pitchers are cowards for not participating in this thing. Who knows? You would think it worked for some people. 2017 got a few people over the hump. The problem is because of COVID, there was such a long layoff that the memories of the U.S. win started to fade. If it had happened in 2020, like they were intending to, or no, 2021 maybe. No,
Yeah,
2021.
I think it was, yeah, they were trying to do, they had it, because like the first one was 2006, then they tried to do like every 3 years, and so they had 2009, but then they were like, no, let's do every 4 years, like all like the Olympics and the World Cup and stuff like that, and so they did that 2013,
Right.
2017, and yeah, then they were planning once again 2021, and then that didn't happen, and then they finally got it off here, but now they're doing it 2026, so they're going to go back to every 3 year schedule.
Or they could just be setting themselves up for the 4-year plan again. So it's on even years.
Maybe.
You never know.
I just wouldn't want to do it during like World Cup years, because then like nobody's going to pay attention to it, or Olympic years.
Well, hence the problem. If you do it in an even numbered year, you're either going to be dealing with one of the Olympics,
right?
I mean, luckily the World Cup usually takes place in the summer, so it wouldn't conflict. Okay. 2026 is going to be a Winter Olympics year. But luckily the Winter Olympics will end by the time the World Baseball Classic begins. And I think, the World Cup is that year actually too.
Yeah.
So 2026 is going to be a jam-packed year of international competitions.
Yeah.
Winter Olympics followed immediately by the World Baseball Classic, followed like 4 months, 3-4 months later by the World Cup. But I'm hoping that the momentum continues with this tournament. I mean, like I said, you had U.S. Trey in the last couple of games. Trey Turner earned, well, at least now seems to have justified that massive contract. Mike Trout said this was the best time he's had playing baseball. So, hopefully American players, will start to kind of really get on board going forward. And I really hope that the owners will, I know they're technically not allowed to block their players from playing, but I can imagine that they're going to be pretty persuasive to try and keep some of their star players from participating. I'm hoping that they'll either loosen up a bit, or the players will just give them a big middle finger and say, I want to represent my country in what is right now the only international baseball, pretty much the only international baseball competition with pro players in it. I mean, you have the juniors tournaments, and you have other tournaments going on. That's usually for amateurs or players that are not in a pro league. It's not like the Olympics. The Olympics never really had pro players because it took place in August, right in the middle of the season. So this is really kind of the first time you've had legit major leaguers playing in an international baseball tournament.
Alrighty.
That's my hope, that it continues to build. And I'm going to segue this into the discussion that we've been having with Charles over the past couple of weeks during this tournament, which is, Charles, did you say you didn't see the point in it, right? That's what you were saying. What you've been saying.
Charles, go ahead. It's your time.
All right. So my time is now. Um, I'm gonna tell you guys straight up, and I already know I'm gonna get shit on it, and I don't care really. I don't care about anyone's opinion who liked it, who enjoyed it. I watched it. I watched Venezuela and U.S. and I watched the finale, and we're gonna get to Petty Pan. I promise you, we're gonna get to Petty Pan. Petty Pan was so good for me, but I don't see the point into it. Yes, you are creating. Are you creating international exposure to people? I don't think so per se. Wanna know why? Because everybody freaking sucked pitching wise for the most part, right? A lot of the games that came into it, Japan and Mexico, Venezuela and US, things like that, people got lit up, right? So sometimes if you're looking at international prospects, maybe that could be your juxtaposition. That's point one. But the problem is they got rid of international pooling, if memory serves me correctly, because they want to stranglehold it to US prospects and players. So that's part one. Part two, it doesn't do anything for me except for try to rebel rouse patriotism amongst all the nations, all the countries, things of that nature. The same way of how I find the Olympics boring. It's my Olympics argument, really, in the WBC, except for the fact of it, instead of it being a binding agreement, is a MLB manufactured focus, because you talk about players who want to do it, and I could just bring in a little bit of the petty is it can be conducive to injuries, as could spring training, right? Two, you're not necessarily getting paid as a player. You might be representing your country, but what are you trying to play for in spring training? Starting positions and future contracts, right, to get into the regular season. But if you're a fan of patriotism amongst whatever nation you have, sure, go ahead and do it. Is it something that's a viewing excitement? No. Is it something that if you're the victor, Japan won, is Japan going to get a stipend, a grant, funding? It's going to help impoverished kids off the streets or help feed the homeless? No.
Yeah,
It might put an exposure.
It actually does.
That, okay, but how much? Let's legitimately talk about it, though, because to you guys it might be, but for us it might be pennies in that sense. If it's going to actually bring funding to help to the communities, sure, I'm okay with that. But like everything, you can see the big old Ed McMahon checks. But what are you localizing and how much of the event? Give me those numbers and I'll actually say, hey, it might be beneficial. If it is just a way of making spring baseball important because it is spring baseball, then I don't care about it. And it is very individualized, but it's also just cheap commercialism, as everybody wants a US hat, Japan hat, Mexico hat, Argentina hat, Colombia hat, Israel hat to kind of go from there. And I don't see the point to it, because what does it really give a benefactor of a person or a nation if we won this all, right? Like that is my singular approach to each of them. And I already know it's going to be with the resistance, because if you like the Olympics, you're going to hate my argument. If you feel the need that you love baseball 24/7, it's the most exciting thing to happen from February to March into baseball, because we all know baseball's really meaningless until when, boys? July, June, maybe. It matters to players, and that's good. Let it matter to the players. That's who should matter ultimately at the end of the day, because you're the ones who are risking life and liberty and career. I'm not even making it to the argument where I don't see the point of it because people get hurt. People get hurt in spring training. I think that's fodder for people who defend it, who look at Edwin Diaz. Well, what happened to Edwin Diaz? So it can happen to anybody in spring training. And y'all want to cackle like hens by all means. But to me, I don't see a payoff. Japan, what? Does that really make it the best nation for baseball? Yeah, because then you can fall back to the argument where you don't even have the best players playing. But then my counter argument is like they shouldn't feel compelled to play it. Two, if it's every 4 years, the pitchers that are great now are probably going to be aged out. And then it's subsection 3 to this being like, what does it matter of having your best pitching when your offense couldn't do anything at the end of the day? Mike Trout. But it's very individualized. So it's not an argument that could hold on to you, but I still don't see the point to it. And I only, the Venezuela U.S. game is because I was out. And then yesterday was really because I was bringing that heat on Andrew and Francisco from out of nowhere, bringing in that love. I'm like, all right, we're all Japan. I'm picking my side. The U.S. gave me student debt. Japan gave me Goku and Vegeta. Easy decision.
The ever contrarian Charles. All right, so yeah, we knew this was coming in. Heck, it was from last week. We've known this was Charles' stance. Now I went to the final yesterday, so that was very exciting. My brother-in-law got tickets. I went with my dad and him, and we saw the final. And it's just something about the international tournaments, and we can say whatever the hell we want about the countries and stuff like that, and where you live and all the problems and stuff within the place. But I don't know. There's just something about the atmosphere. It's just like people yelling USA. I'm like, damn it, man. I like, America. Like that's bald eagles. I was running out there like Mac and Dennis and Charlie in the wrestling episode of Always Sunny. Like that's how I felt at the game. Just pretty cool seeing the like the pregame ceremony. They have all the flags out there. Just my dad. I knew he was kind of proud to see even like Nicaragua, all the shit that's going on over there. But just like seeing that flag and just represented in some sort of way, it does touch people, man. And even yesterday was, I think, more than anything else, it did matter. Major League Baseball needed something like this. As much as everybody else can shit on it, and say, because
Can I just ask you a question? Can I ask you a question and go on to say your statement? And I want both of you to really perceive this. How does this help Major League Baseball to keep viewership throughout the season to the postseason? Take that question and work with you as you tell your story, and then go from there.
I think Major League Baseball. It wasn't about a short-term thing about viewership this season for as far as like the actual baseball teams is concerned. I think they needed this more than anything else. More, I guess, in a way to legitimize the sport, because I mean, baseball has kind of been not as far as like the team sports, aside from American football, whatever. Like, right, only U.S. plays that. That's fine, and then Canada has a version of it, and then you got rugby and all that stuff, which is but for baseball in particular, it's been knocked out of the Olympics before, and it's got enough international teams in it as far as that you can drum up people to care. And baseball needs to have this happen. It's not just about this season. Okay, whether some guys watch the Yankees, lose the ALCS for the umpteenth time in the last 6 years, in October. No, it's not just about that. It's about getting people to, in the future. This is for like 5 to 10 years from now. This is a long-term thing. And it started in 2006, and it's only, like, this year was the most, the fervor for this was, and it's all part of the pandemic and all that stuff too, but the fervor for it was palpable. Like, the Latino players especially wanted it more, the Asian players as well. It's only the American players that are just kind of whatever. And but even then, the position players are actually getting on board with this. So it's just one more hurdle left. So I think that's going to take like 10, the next round, or maybe even like the one after that, for it to get to that point. And baseball needs something like this so it can grow the game as incrementally as possible, but still possible. You can finally get enough. We got a Czech team this year with actual people from the Czech Republic, the British team, and stuff like that. And it helps with the drumming up of the money, because like one story with like the British team, like the reason their uniforms were shitty is because their organization doesn't have the money. So this tournament, actually being in the tournament, got a huge influx of money for them. The Israeli team, the same thing. Like they because of the 2017 tournament when they made it, they had enough money to help with their training facilities and stuff like that. And even this one for this year is going to help them more to help them grow the games in their own respective countries, because as much as, yes, this is Major League Baseball, but it's also the other federations and stuff like that for each country that is part of this. It's all a joint effort, and Major League Baseball being part of this, along with Japan and the NPBL, and oh yeah, Freddie's on. I just saw his note there. So hey, what's up, Freddie? He puts the WHO, the World Health Organization. I don't know. I know he put WHO, but that looks. Anyways,
only for the Dominican Republic and the steroids, right?
Well, yeah, it'll help their medical program for that. Like this isn't about the short-term gains. This has been a long-term thing that they've been trying to put together. Like even the World Cup, people were commenting like it took like maybe a few, like 3 decades before they actually hit it big. So it still takes time. This isn't going to be this is why they need to keep doing it. They can't just stop now, especially when like all these games were effing good. I don't care what the pitching restrictions were, man. These were amazing baseball games. Like I haven't been this.
Are you saying? No, finish the thought, and it's a question I have that either one of you can hang on to it.
I mean, I haven't been this engaged with baseball in a while. Like as far as like baseball as a whole, not just my team, the Marlins. The Marlins have sucked, but just as a whole, like paying attention to not just all right the United States, but paying attention. Okay, what did the Italians do? I was watching games that were in Taiwan and Japan, like late at night because I was up and I'm like, yeah, let's put on this game and see what's going down. And like some of them were like legitimately very good baseball games, exciting. Like I like baseball when it's just the game itself can be exciting. I told you guys I was at a Little League game and just watching my nephew play. They won 2-1, and they won like in the ninth, or not the ninth inning, but the last inning of like the seventh inning. I think they only play 7. So like they won in the last inning with like a walk off. And I was screaming my butt off. And the same thing with these games. I was just, I don't know. It's the purity of baseball. Like the players aren't getting paid for this. So it is out of the goodness of their hearts. And I think for a lot of them, it's probably returning them back to their roots instead of just that. And so, yeah, I don't know. This has been a long-term thing. I love this tournament. I love the atmosphere yesterday. I think people actually, much like hockey, if you actually go and see it and actually experience it, I think it'll change your mind. Unless you're a stupid fucking racist like KFC Barstool. So there you go. I needed to throw that in there.
So my two questions that came from it is the enjoyment, because it goes back to the original thing, does this actually help the viability of the MLB in the long-term run? And that's debatable. I would say no, and I have arguments to it, but it's a compound question. And two, did you actually enjoy these games, or did you enjoy the games because it had the playoff baseball atmosphere of like hot, dingers being shot out and then walk-off homers? Because people forget the aspect that man, I feel like a good portion of the casual viewerships do not appreciate a pitching duel. We, the three of us, do, and I think part of that's through the selection of who we've had as pitchers. But you look at the Mexico-Japan game, you look at U.S.-Venezuela, and I feel like that's kind of like captivates it. So is it skewed? Because imagine if we had more duels or blowouts.
It's the same thing. Like of course, casual fans love offense. It's the same thing. You can make the same argument about the NFL.
But
sure,
MLB,
it's fun
Roger
to see.
For the MLB, they don't want. But they don't want.
People won't appreciate pitching, but like in the NFL, you won't appreciate. People won't appreciate a good defensive battle where it's like a 7-10 game. You know, like that. Like they don't want to see that. The NBA's gotten rid of defense.
The NFL. Yeah, but that's the thing. They don't want our viewership. They want new viewers. They want continuous viewership, especially for baseball, which is a dying sport because they restrain themselves. There's simple things they could do. So that's just my thing when we talk about viability, how it helps out. It is a flip of the coin. Did I enjoy the games I watched? Sure. Did I enjoy yesterday because I was being super effing petty? Absolutely. Because I enjoy best things I'm petty. Is it something that I need to watch in 20... Well, sometimes it hurts to be right. Sometimes it hurts to be right, but damn it, does it hurt so good. But the idea of it is that, did it sway me to want to watch on an individualized level? Did it sway me to want to watch it in, when's the next one expected? 2026? Probably not, but also because if your idea is like, hey, we need the studs, a lot of the studs that you have now, guys, they're going to be long gone, right? Unless you get your Jazz Chisholm, if he doesn't, fracture an ankle.
But there's always new studs. It's the same thing. Like that, man. It's the same thing. Like Messi took like 4 or 5 times before he finally got it at the end. So eventually there's a new stud. Argentina's gonna have a new stud next time. So what
I would say is this: I'm happy that you guys. Yeah, I'm happy that you guys enjoyed it. Did I enjoy my time watching it yesterday? Sure. Like I enjoy the sport of baseball, so yeah, I enjoyed it. But is it? I think the ultimate answer is it viable for the MLB? Because I'm looking at 2 components, right? On an objective.
But what do you mean by viability?
On a subjective standpoint.
But because I could give
our
you
whole thing, we've done it for several years. is this, because even if I heard you say it's like, we don't know if it helps out in the short term, long term. Long term is tough to predict. So are we looking at things that could be beneficial? You need the short term fix as well for particular sports, especially since what a Sinclair, right? Sinclair just went into dead zone. The ones that are broadcasting,
Bally Sports,
half of the leagues, or not Bally. The ones that were broadcasting quarter of the games themselves, and then they're going declaring bankruptcy.
That's Bally
right?
Sports.
That.
That's them. Yeah.
Is it Bally? I thought it was Sinclair.
That's the parent company of Bally, but yeah, it's all that.
Oh, Jesus. Well, they also had wrestling affiliations. I think those particulars matter for other cable organizations or satellite organizations to want to pick it up. It's tough. On an enjoyment level, everybody enjoys it. I played Rabbids yesterday watching it, but yeah, sure, it was enjoyable. I still don't see the point to it. But I've been talking too much. You've been talking too much. Andrew, you have any answers?
Look at Freddie's comment.
Not the I like to. What do you say? I don't want no studs. A stud is a guy that can't get no. Thank you. Right? And you looked at that entire lineup for everybody. I'm just saying.
Hey, the Dominicans sent their best. The Japanese sent their best. The Venezuelans sent their best. Pretty much every country sent their best.
The Dominicans did send their best, and they still couldn't get that far.
Hey, but that's
was like, what's up?
I don't know. I still think, even objectively, you can still say the viability is there. This is going to keep going. They sold more. They sold like double the tickets they did from the 2017 thing, and that was before the pandemic. They had way more of the TV numbers as well, so it's there.
We're also going to geopolitical stuff because the idea. I guess we are.
But that's what baseball needs. They need the geo stuff. That's why That's why the NBA is sucking China's dick so hard.
That's why they held it in. That's why they held it in Miami, because nobody going to come to the World Baseball Classic in Kansas City, man.
Well, they're never going to host it because it's not even the right time in March. The only cities that can host it are places with domes, and like they've held it. They had it in Toronto. They've hosted.
Yeah, in purpose is like to get somebody that you have to get the areas that have the international flavor as well.
But the viability, when I think viability, I'm like, is this going to be something? Is this going to be a thing 10 years from now? I'm like, yeah, this is going to be a thing 10 years from now. This is their
sure.
baby
I'm looking at
World
viability
Cup.
for the MLB and solely the MLB.
Well, but the MLB is the one that put this forth. They wouldn't be still doing this if it wasn't viable to them.
But if it's dying or if it's not as much, it can easily be scrapped in. Especially if you get new ownership, new commissioners, it will probably get renewed on a business standpoint. But is it going to be fulfilling to what they want, or maybe they have to figure out what it is that they're actually trying to see? There's a lot of questions, but I'm sorry, Andrew. I've been stealing a lot.
All right. Well, okay. Yeah, and we haven't heard from Andrew as far as like this portion of the argument.
Well, I mean, some of your points from earlier about, what does this bring to, lower income communities and things? That argument makes no sense to me. That's never brought up in any other professional sport or any other professional sporting competition.
But that is the personal aspect of it for me. I'm like, I don't see the point of any of those international things if no one's going to get a big benefit from it. It's not just in use to the players, the body structure. So it's not on an objective thing. That's just how that was the same thing I gave you the argument about the Olympics. Whereas back in the day when everything was created, it was like you get more to it versus now. So don't get that twisted.
Then what's the point of any professional league at all?
I'm talking about like the big old international aspects of it. If you're talking about any leagues, there's a lot of things that people like, but you're bringing in somebody like me who is not in it, and you want me to watch it, right? Not you, but them. They want viewers, they want new people, but I don't see, okay, we have this international thing, but I don't view it as a declaration of you're the best of this sport, that sport, worldwide champions. But I want to kind of put that out there because I think your argument's going to go to a vastly different area.
Well, to that point, I'd say, it's in human nature to combat. Whether it's war, well, it's always been war, and it will be for the foreseeable future. But
Splatoon.
one of humanity's great advances in morality has been putting some of that fight into a less hurtful manner in terms of sports and in terms of games. And humans are by default very tribalistic people. I won't dive into political realm and all of that, but whether it's on a political scale, why do we support sports teams and why do we have rivals? It's because we're tribalistic and we identify with one particular group, and there's animosity, although animosity in sports is, but I hate USF fans, or not USF fans. I hate USF in general. But at the same time, if someone from USF came to me needing help, I would of course help them. Tuscaloosa, there was a huge tornado went through there in 2011. I don't recall exactly, but I'd be damned if Auburn fans didn't come in and help. That's what makes sports so great, is you can still have that absolute intensity and fierce hatred, but at the end of the day, you still respect them as humans.
All right.
Or
So,
like, for instance,
are you easy? The easy way of saying it, because here you are talking about that there's human beings that were animals, but what you're really trying to say is that sports, even internationally, for something that might not be MLB or different adjudicatory body, is a connector and it brings people together.
absolutely, 100%. I'll speed up my arguments, my statement a bit.
Well, you were just saying that people are animals and we should destroy each other, and this is a way of doing it friendly. I think what you really meant to say was baseball is a connector. We all bond to it. Sometimes there's a rivalry, but it's okay. Right? I don't want people to think that Andrew of all of us is the bloodthirsty one. But I have played Splatoon with him, so I can say he has the qualities.
I mean, I was raised by someone who has a master's in psychology, so I've been raised with psychology my whole life. So it's tough for me to not see things from a psychological standpoint in some nature. This is just an extension of any sort of competition, but I'd say even more so because, for Americans, it's America. Everyone says, oh, America's the melting pot. I mean, to a certain extent, yes. I mean, there are other countries where there's much more diversity in terms of nationalities, regionalities, things like that. But the U.S. is fairly high up there. And that's kind of one uniting bond, is that we're all Americans. I mean, I saw people in the stands. I was watching on TV, so I didn't get as good of a look as Francisco, but I saw people wearing Puerto Rico, people wearing Dominican, all chanting USA, USA. People from different countries, whether they were born in the US or not, they ultimately rallied around one team. That was the United States. But then, take me, for example. I'm American. I've literally never left the United States. I haven't even been to the Bahamas on any sort of cruise. Aside from air travel, my feet have never left American soil. But I identified so deeply with Israel because that's my culture. And, in 2017, I was waking up at 4 a.m. to watch them play over in Korea or whenever they were playing. That was hell, and it was in the middle of my last semester of law school, but I still made it a point to wake up every morning and watch, or whatever morning, and watch Israel. And I watched a documentary about it. There were people in New York, all over the world, even Israelis who really couldn't give a shit about baseball. Basketball and soccer are their sports. And they were actually starting to watch baseball for the first time. There was a failed attempt at a league back in 2007 that lasted 1 year. But now they're starting to build facilities again. Apparently, they're going to be hosting the European Championships in 2025, I think. I'm getting a little bit off track here, but like, I know Francisco is jumping around. Oh, I'm Venezuelan today. Oh, I'm Nicaraguan today. I'm American today. But the point is, it's a way to represent our culture and to feel that tie, like you said. So ultimately, at the end of the day, if it makes people happy and it's not hurting anybody, who cares?
I think you just gave the illegal argument to prostitution, so good for you. That was a joke, everybody.
Well, that's another story, and we'll talk about that off air. But that's kind of my mantra with a lot of things is, if it doesn't hurt anybody and people enjoy it, let them do it. I mean, if it starts getting to the point where, and luckily people are fairly self-policing when it comes to sports in most countries.
So can I ask a question for you to expand on, though, real quick? After
Sure.
you give your opinion, if Israel and U.S. did not qualify, would you still watch the WBC? Because you were saying people feel connectedness and also a sense of nationalism.
I mean, certainly I'd be less inclined to watch. I mean, the only games I watched were U.S. and Israel, but that's mainly because, with so many competitions, so many games going on, I only had so much time to dedicate that wasn't tied to work or anything else during my daily life.
I mean, even that argument, I would still say, like, people do that in sports all the time. Like, as soon as the Heat are eliminated, I'm not watching the NBA Finals. Panthers are eliminated. I didn't really watch the Stanley Cup Finals.
Hang on, Francisco. Let me continue.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Just want to make.
But I am the odd fellow who, if there's ever some sort of an elimination contest going on, I'm there and I'm watching it.
Like March Madness.
UCF has March Madness, yes. When I heard that Fairleigh Dickinson was on the verge of upsetting Purdue, you damn well better I was watching that thing on my phone while I was sitting in the car. I wasn't driving, for the record. No one, please do not watch TV and drive. I watch the NBA Finals, elimination games. Usually I won't watch 1 through 3 because
I don't really have it's time.
Okay.
We don't, trust us. But, we'll tell you we don't.
World Series, I'll watch, elimination games. I don't usually go NLCS, ALCS, certainly not the division series. But I make it a point to watch any sort of games with something riding on the line. Of course, people are going to be more inclined to watch if their team is in the competition. I mean, I'm sure if the Czech Republic wasn't in the tournament, I don't think anybody in the Czechia. They don't like to be called Czech Republic anymore. It's Czechia. I'm sure no one in Czechia would be watching the thing, but they did make it. So now you have people watching it. And then, like Francisco said, 1 or 2 kids might decide, hey, I really like this sport. And, they might go on to take it up at a high school level or try and get a league created in their country. And
Are you kidding me? Oh, come on. I lost connection. 1 second, guys. Let me pop back in here real quick. Gosh darn it. Hold on. We'll pop back in. Don't worry. This has happened. This is the second time this happened on the show. I don't know what's going on. This happened last week. And yeah, so let me rejoin that video chat.
You like the connectivity of it, and okay, I think you just saw him back.
Yeah,
you like the connectivity
I'm back.
of it,
Sorry.
and then in addition to all that jazz is the fact that it creates an excitement because it's an elimination game, so it can make anybody. It can appeal to the casual viewership as well, of those who have been eliminated.
exactly. And if even one person comes out of this saying, "Hey, this baseball game is pretty cool," that's a win at the end of the day. And people always they're lamenting the loss of American players. Kids are more interested in playing soccer or football these days. And I mean, I'm an advocate for multi-sport players. I don't think you should weigh yourself down with just one sport. But the Little League World Series, that, as strange as it's the sound, I watch that every year. I always root for the Southeastern Division. And then ultimately the U.S. whenever they play the international champion. So again, that international side of things. But again, I love baseball. And if a 9-10-year-old kid watches the Little League World Series or the World Baseball Classic, and they want to get into this, who knows? Maybe they'll be that next kid that makes it to the Little League World Series and go on from there. And baseball is one of the healthier sports. In the sense that there's less real kind of like hard hitting, head trauma. It's accessible for a lot more people. Even if it's not baseball proper, even if it translates to adult rec softball leagues, it still kind of forms around the same basis. So I see the World Baseball Classic as a win-win. I'm glad to see it continues to rise in popularity. I hope I'm being somewhat on track. I've already lost the point I was trying to make.
Well, I think you made the points, though. I kind of catched up a little bit. You feel connected to it. You can feel connected to it even after the fact. And if it involved, let's say, Czech Republic and Japan, right, as the finals, you would still watch it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So you're on track.
I that's the big thing for me, and I'm sure I'm not the only person who, March Madness, for example, I'm sure 90% of people who are betting on games didn't watch a single game of college basketball that year outside of their own team's games or any at all. But you just know the March Madness as a whole is one of the most watched sporting events in the world. And again, I'm saying as a whole, cumulative views over the course of the relatively short number of competitions. It's fewer competitions than the World Cup. I'm talking about individual matches. And the World Cup is continuous, whereas March Madness is done over 3 weekends. Actually, no. March Madness would have more games because more teams. But my point being that I'm sure a lot of people are kind of in that same boat. They're like, oh, this World Baseball Classic thing is going on. I'll give it a look. And teams that weren't in it, weren't in the final. Surely they were watching. So it's another great international competition, I think. And it's one that gets the world's best players involved, which is new. So yeah, I think it's great, and
Okay. Kind of just trod off there. Andrew? Did I get knocked
Yeah,
out
I'm here.
again? Oh, okay. Alrighty.
Possibly.
I can hear you guys. I don't know what's going on. Okay.
I can hear you.
All right. Well, anyway, so I mean, gosh, man, I think this one for me. This is a thing. This is a thing. This ain't gonna stop. Everybody loved this. They immediately announced a new one for 2026. Like immediately, like, okay, we're doing this again in 3 years. We're not doing the 4-year thing. Like, everybody loved this competition that was in it, involved in it. That they had the camaraderie from yesterday. Andrew was saying he saw it from the TV screen. Man, being there, like, people were wearing, like, yeah, the Dominican hats, their Puerto Rico hats, stuff like that. They were wearing USA jerseys, were wearing Dominican hats and stuff like that. I saw fans from all walks of the baseball spectrum, even the Miami spectrum, or even other sports. Like, I saw like Mexicans wearing their Mexican soccer team jerseys. I saw Nicaraguans. I saw some Dutch people. I saw, of course, Japanese people. They were selling Australian hats, and then nobody bought the Italian hats. I saw a few yarmulkes out there. I saw like just everybody, all the teams. Just trying to make this as a major league aspect. Everybody was a lot of people were repping just their teams. I was wearing my Marlins stuff. Of course, there's the Yankees fans. Got Dodgers, Cubs. I saw an A's fan, like Padres fans, like just all kinds of people from this was. They have this sign out in the right field wall that says this is the Festival of Baseball. It truly was the Festival of Baseball, and a lot of people didn't come to see it in person, right? Once again, if you came to all the media members, there were 2,000 press credentials given out for the game yesterday. That's insane. This is a thing now. And yeah, we can't compare it to the World Cup on that scale. Of course we can't. But it's baseball's equivalent to it. And I'm happy for that. Because even in basketball can't have something like this. Because you see it in the Olympics. The NBA,
Andrew Perkins will lose his mind.
The American, the American players.
I can put. I'm putting the dig on him.
No, I'm not against it, but I'm just saying basketball can't do something like this because the American players would wipe the floor every single time they had it. The same just like in the Olympics. There was the one lull was Argentina won it for some weird reason. And it was because the NBA just set the rookies, But aside from that, it's always the USA. It sure as hell can't do this for American football, because people are gonna get wrecked. You can't it'd just be Canada versus the US, and even then Canada would still get wrecked. You can't do this. But in Major League Baseball, with baseball in general as a sport, with other teams, you can have an international competition. They did jump through a lot of hoops to make some of these teams, like the Italian teams and stuff like that. But they're making leeways because of that. All right, there's an Italian team. Well, now they got an Italian baseball field out there, out in Milan or whatever. They got, in Israel, in the Czech Republic. Right, it's maybe we'll finally start chipping away. Maybe get some representatives from Africa or something like that, because that's really the only continent that wasn't really represented in this in these tournaments so far. So maybe that'll be the next stride for Major League Baseball and I think the WBSC, I think that's what they're called, World Baseball Softball Confederation. Like for them to start pushing towards that, because basketball's doing that, right? That's what they've been trying to do lately. So it's getting there. It's getting there, and I don't know. Just the atmosphere yesterday was amazing, right? All the Americans were having a ton of fun. All the Latino music that was afterwards from the game, that you see all these Japanese people and with their chants, like it was just fun, man. That's some fun shit. I think everybody should go out and experience it at least once, and I think it'll turn some heads. It might even turn Charles's cold heart. Maybe it'll grow 3 times its size that day, Or maybe we can get Aaron Judge to convince Charles, right?
I was kind of hurt where Andrew, for a second, was like, I'm American. I'm like, I'm an American. I just question things as I'm stuck somewhere with like
Charles, the ever
television monitors and TV monitors.
But
I think the running joke was like, when did I become the freedom fighter of the group? Cracking me up.
Yeah. Well, in any case. This was a man. This was something.
It was a good experience. Even I watched it.
I still think
I just had my Switch.
I would say
I had my Switch, but still.
Yeah, no, but people enjoy sports the way they want to enjoy it. But like, I still think like just international competition like this brings out something different, and especially in the players. And people kept throwing the argument, well, the NHL doesn't go to the Olympics no more. It's not because the players don't want to be there. Every single player wants to do the Winter Olympics in hockey.
I will say the Twitterverse was not as good with their compelling reasons of why the WBC was unimportant compared to my individual standpoint. I'm just saying.
Well, you're unique in that you see it from like that. Like anybody else that was making the argument against it on Twitter was because they're a Mets fan, which of course we can always crap on Mets fans. We can always do that.
Oh, yeah.
That is an international sport in itself. So there you go. Edwin Diaz celebrated just jumping up and down. That's that's how he got injured. That's how it happened, right? It could have happened when he walked out of his car or something. So it's that was a ticking time bomb if that's how it happened for him, But every other argument was basically like it's funny. It's people that you would think you guys are like, you're literally the meme. You're the guy wearing the sunglasses with the Make America Great hat. Wouldn't you want to assert America's dominance and T-pose over everybody? Like, I don't get it. It was kind of weird, but for whatever reason, and yet like here we are. It's happening. This is a thing, and it's here to stay, folks. So it doesn't matter what people like that are thinking. It happened. Major League Baseball made their money. All these teams had fantastic experiences. These players had a fantastic experience. The fans had fantastic experiences. So it was lit in Miami, in Taichung, in Tokyo, and in Phoenix. Like that was a great competition. It's over now. We're at 1 hour and 4 minutes, guys. So
we talked real stuff.
This is a sports show, so here we go. But it's time for a word from our non-sponsors. There's people and places and things and concepts and what have you that we've been enjoying over the last week. So, I kind of sort of revealed what mine was already, but it's the Publix app.
Get out of here.
But it just felt so natural because you mentioned your lunch, and I'm like, I gotta talk about my sandwich mishap. But I mean, look, once again, that's my non-sponsors. The Publix app, you can order. It's not just the sandwiches; you can order other stuff from the deli as well from there, and you can just pick it up, which is it's actually better. You don't have to wait in the lines or anything like that, especially for the sandwiches, especially when it's like lunch rush or people are getting out and trying to grab their dinners. Like it's just much easier to just go avoid all those other human beings and grab your stuff and go. And you customize your sandwich all the way you want it. It's perfect for like a guy like me who I like to cook, right? I like to find my stuff and my wares and all that stuff, and if you go, you pick out which Publix store you're at. You can set a main one if you want to. It's like, this is my main Publix, and you're looking for something in particular. Evaporated milk. When the hell do I ever use evaporated milk? Only when I'm like cooking certain things and I just need it for that specific thing. But I don't know where that is in Publix. But thanks to that app, you can just type in the search and they'll show you which aisle it is in that particular store. It's actually pretty easy. Publix does some questionable things for sure. At least the people that run it, as far as donating to certain causes that I wouldn't agree with, but we all kind of fight this dilemma with Publix. It's like, man, they make a better sandwich than Subway. At least it's not made out of cardboard, right? So that's the dilemma there. But the app.
I love how your argument is, how can I sell out?
No, yeah, exactly. But in any case, the app is fantastic, and I screwed up my own sandwich, and it was my fault, and they followed it to a T. So it works. The app works when I screwed it up, and they made it exactly as screwed up as it was. So if you are a psychopath out there, they will make your sandwich in the way that you want it. So there you go. So that's promo code Ted Bundy.
Jesus Christ. I'll go.
I don't have a sound for that.
How do you well, yeah. Well, all you have to do is just have him cheese to himself. So I'll go. I was gonna do this last week. I felt like this. I want to give to the lunch that I had today, but I don't want to take. I don't want to take away 1 hour of enjoyment versus the enjoyment that I had last week. So I'm just going to go with the one I had planned last week before we had to postpone the show. So my non-sponsor is Ratchet and Clank Ripped Apart. If you remember about a year ago or a year and a month ago, I had told you guys I was playing the PS4 remake on my PS5, but I did non-sponsor it. Ratchet and Clank is a very weird kind of brand for me. I'm not overly in love with the series. I don't fall in love with the way that some other people do. Given the events of it, like I remember playing the original one for the PS2, and I don't think I finished it. I think there was just too many good options of platformers available at that time, and I know what you guys are saying. There's never enough good time platformer shows. Look at where you came from. I understand. I feel like I betrayed all my old platforming masters from making that statement, but it was just one I couldn't get into. Back then it was Crash Bandicoot, Sly Cooper, Jack and Daxter, things of that nature, and I remember playing the first one. So I did the PS4 remake, and what I do is when I get games, and it was one of those games that were free, but I look on like reviews and saying, all right, first I always check how long to beat, and then next thing I always check is just, am I going to enjoy this or not, kind of thing. Like what the reviews are. And people were giving that first one, like the remake, a lot of good, positive things. I just couldn't straight up get into it, man. Like it was a 7.5. I sent you guys a list. But I got ripped apart about like 4 or 5 months ago for free because it's me. I don't pay crap for anything. And on the PS5, I got to tell you, I had to quote the Flintstones, I had a gay old time playing it. I was very happy with it. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was very good. It is honed with the PS5 technology. It is beautiful to look at. It is like 12 to 14 hours is what I spent with it. And I think that was about enough in the proper time period to have. Basically, it's supposed to be a sequel to the PS3 Into the Nexus. The first PS4 remake was more or less done for the movie that bombed, which I think would be good as an animated show on like Netflix or something. I couldn't imagine as a movie itself. It's funny, it's wholesome. You play as Ratchet and Rivet, and then you get different aspects of it. The platform is good, the gunplay is good, the weaponry is interesting. My only complaint about it is that I wish it's like I either had longer time to play the game so I can play with the weapons, or there was just shorter weapons. But you can use like things like a pinball to attack somebody, a buzzsaw. You can use this big old ray gun. You could just throw your wrench. You can do all this stuff. You have grenade launcher, stuff like that. It kind of made me seem to be interested in the continuing series. And I don't non-sponsor games until I play them in full. But I was raving about it in the chat with you guys. I was sending you videos. It's got that good kind of old school vibe to it on a story, simple without demanding too much, and has a fun little aspect of things. So get your PlayStation 5. You can get it for cheap, man. Like $30 these days. I would definitely recommend it. I give an 8 out of 10. That's a good 8 out of 10 of enjoyment. It's going to be hard when I trade away, but I ain't loyal to nothing, right? But Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart, get yourself some, and get it for your PS5. Make sure to get on sale. Promo code Quark. It's a character in the game, so I feel like it's appropriate.
Alrighty. Andrew?
So it'll be my turn. All this baseball over the past few weeks has got me thinking about. Man, I don't know if I sponsored this game yet.
Well, it's always okay to not.
I mean, we've already had repeats, so.
MVP Baseball 2005.
Is that the Manny Ramirez one?
Yeah.
Man.
It is almost universal as one of the best baseball games ever made. And by a pretty deep considered the best baseball game even to this day. And some of that I'm sure is due past. That seems to be a theme of people have more fond memories of the last of something. But MVP was just MVP 05. That whole series, well, it was a relatively short series under that name. It started out as Triple Play. Then it went over to MVP in 2000. The whole series was really good. And then it peaked at the right time with MVP 05. I mean, some of the innovations in that game were just remarkable. I mean, you had that batting mini game, which was really a lot of fun. You had the pitching mini game, which I didn't really do a lot of, but still very fun. You had innovations in that game that haven't come back in the, what are we at? Almost 18 years?
Oof.
Yeah, almost 18 years since that game came out.
Oof.
You had the creative park, and I'm not saying, I mean, MLB The Show has that now, but not in the way that MVP had it in its dynasty mode, because you started with a real bare bones stadium, and you, as the owner of the franchise, had to raise money. You had to set your concession stands prices. You had to set merchandise prices. You had to set all these prices, make sure your team stayed in the black, and if you had enough money, then you would expand your stadium. And how could you expand it? You could add additional seats. You could add, porch patio restaurants in the outfield. You could add more lighting banks. But then also you got to customize, and admittedly it was very bare bones by today's standards. It was really more, you had a few options to choose from, but you could choose, did you want a symmetrical stadium in terms of the fence? Did you want a Fenway Park-esque really tall fence to the left? But then you could also choose the location. Did you want it on the bay? Did you want it in the suburbs? Did you want it in the city? You could change the type of dirt. Was it clay? Was it actual dirt? Was it? You could change so many things, which was revolutionary at the time. And it took until the show 22 for them to finally bring that back. Any sense of the word. The last game that had any sort of stadium customization was MVP 07, which was EA Sports College Baseball. So, but then just the hitting mechanics are great. They had this thing called the hitter's eye, which was this perfect balance of unrealistic but realistic. You don't have a baseball changing colors in real life like you do in MVP baseball. You don't. But what it was intending to do was just so brilliant. It was done so it wasn't over the top, but it was just enough to get the job done, which was, if you're throwing a fastball, the hitter is going to see white. The ball is white. If it's a breaking ball, it's going to turn red. If it's a changeup, it's going to be green. If it's a knuckle, it's going to be kind of like a pink. So the concept of hitters in real life being able to read the seams of the ball as it comes out of the pitcher's hand is translated as best as possible in the video game sense into that with that color changing mechanism, which is absolutely brilliant and it hasn't been brought back since. Or even something as minor as being able to step forward in the box or step back in the box to adjust your hitting zone. If the guy is throwing you outside the whole time, to step a little bit closer to the plate and you're adjusting your hitting zone so you can go out and get those outside pitches. And then for 2005, the graphics were great. The sounds were great. It's just such a fantastic game. And it honestly, it still holds up today. I mean, I was playing it a little bit. I was living in Miami. I actually dug out my Xbox again now, and I'm probably going to play it either tonight or tomorrow because it's a good game. It's a fun game, and I wish. I'll get to that later. So MVP Baseball 2005. If you can get it, I highly recommend you get it. I'm sure theaters exist where you can play the game. If you're not like me and have the actual original on hand, I highly recommend you play it. It's a lot of fun.
There's plenty of ways to emulate the game. Because EA is not re-releasing this thing.
So, promo code. We Got the Noise.
Is that from the soundtrack? I feel like you. Yeah, okay. Oh, man. I have in the background, as you were talking, Andrew, from when I was doing the sim games during the lockdown. And yeah, it's still, the animations are fantastic for its time, especially. And the just the graphics in general, the ballparks are faithfully recreated as much as possible on that era of the PS2, the GameCube, the Xbox, and yeah, this is for most Major League Baseball fans, the sports video game fans, this has always been considered either the GOAT or it's top 3 of all time. So, yeah, good game, good video game. All right, well, we're at an hour and 20. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
No. I was agreeing. That's absolutely right.
So we're at an hour and 20 minutes, And so I don't know. Anybody want to do March Madness a little bit, or I mean, I just watched FAU's game. That was it. I didn't really watch anything else as far as the March Madness. 'Cause I was still focused on the World Baseball Classic, but I'll keep an eye out now that we got the Sweet 16 happening. You know. Anybody?
I'm really annoyed that FAU won, and let me explain why. I have a little bit against FAU.
The FDU
because
coach
it is
already
the
bailed.
rival.
Yeah, he went to Iona. Is where he went to.
Iona.
Yeah, because Rick Pitino went to go to St. John's.
Iona Gales.
Gale Storms.
Francisco, one of these days we need to bring back that segment of can I guess or remember the mascot of these random teams.
I mean, this would have been the perfect tournament, right? But
Yeah.
I did see
I know
something, a tweet out that 12 of the Sweet 16 teams have never won a championship, so it's a very high possibility we could have a first-time winner.
That'd be great. But yeah, I mean, aside from the fact that FAU is FIU's rival, I really wanted to see a 16 seed make it to the Sweet 16, but you had to go and ruin it.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, aside from that, that's really all of it. And of course, I've been watching the highlights of the other upsets and things like that. But it was, I mean, it's been fun. It's been fun. I think I watched when I watched the FAU game, and I forgot what I watched after that. But it's been pretty cool. And you have the women's March Madness going on as well. And I think the Hurricanes were dunking on literally and figuratively.
The Hoosiers literally got murdered.
Yeah, just like the Heat when they beat out the Pacers, right? It's just to create, continuing tradition down here of beating Indiana-based teams in basketball. But aside from that, I got nothing else.
I typically skip 64 and 32. I mean, Miami was playing, so I was watching it. Because I want to see if Jim Larinaga is a better coach than Mario Cristobal, and I can say unequivocally.
That's already
precisely.
That's
the
proven
NBA
already.
is perfect. That's my petty bracket, though. If you had attack, it's like the Miami basis of the Hurricanes. Because I'm not gonna lie, knowing that we're in a Sweet 16, when I was in the hat shops today looking for a team visitor for Andrew, I saw that green and orange. I was like, me?
Mm-hmm.
I want that, even though green is not necessarily a color I work with. But I was taking a little pride. I was watching those games.
You can make the argument that Miami's lately been more of a basketball school than a football school.
Without a doubt.
Canes fans.
I would have to disagree, but can I tell you why?
Sure, you're the Canes fan here, but sure.
It's because of the fact that there was a big dip of the recruiting and the success that came after like the Shane Larkin era, which was like 2013.
Oh,
so
yeah,
was,
that's right.
4 or 5 years of being
Barry
relevant.
Larkin's son.
And that matters to me about successes because no matter what, a psychopath Canes fan is always going to hold up the fact that the Mark Rick led Hurricanes were number one for like 1 week. The recency bias, I'm sorry, that's what's going to happen with it. It's exciting because you're used to the ACC being kind of the pool of good basketball teams, but in a world where UNC ain't UNC because Roy Williams retired, in a world where Mike Krzyzewski is no longer coaching Duke, and everybody was stroking that Duke, right? Because, the guy that they got who was the replacement went perfect at home, and, they did all this stuff. Virginia got bailed out. So all of a sudden it's like, I feel like it's like the unlikely hero. It's not even like the Frodo, you shall bear the ring kind of thing. We're like Neville Longbottoming it in the final Deathly Hallows movie where we're just going to chop the last snake off. We ain't winning. Victor Wong's playing excellently, but it ain't happening. But it's just interesting. But I typically grind down on 16, 8, and then 4, and then 2. Partially it's just because of the fact that you do get your good upsets, but I feel like I've kind of been spoiled because I was watching the Fairleigh Dickinson game a little bit. And then I have a hard time sometimes being able to balance. It's like how I'll have a lot of wrestling, like WWE and their 3 shows a week, and then AEW, where I try to pick and choose like the women's and the men's. But if I have a scintilla of the idea of what's happening in men's, it's more minute for the women's because ESPN does not broadcast it properly. I'm going to say right now, I think their game day stuff of what they talk about doesn't do justice to any kind of women's basketball to get you to know about these people. I think unless they have the highlight person like that has Sabrina Ionescu a couple of years back, because she was just decimating. She was like fantastic. She's doing great now. I think they're actually trying to give her big money in the pros over in the WNBA, if memory serves me right. But you have to also, it's not ESPN, I know that does the final the coverage. It's everybody. It's what CBS at this point, or Paramount, whatever they want to call themselves. But the point is, like, the coverage itself could be better for all these schools that you don't know, and then also for the proper parity for men's and women's. But it could be enjoyable. It's just, this is interesting because I think this is the first full year where you have coaches that were there for legacies. I got Boeheim's retiring, finally. And then, I look at Tom Izzo. I'm like, what's up, dude? Are you out now? Because Michigan State been overhyped for years on end. So I can get excited for it. Give me like a week and I'll be excited for it because I can just play Rabbids and watch.
Yeah. Alrighty. I mean, that's as much as I have for the tournament at this point. But do we have anything
before we move on? I want to mention a couple of other college tournaments that are going on right now. Well, one is already finished. It's the Women's Frozen 4 finished.
Oh,
already.
Gosh, man, I did not realize.
Yeah, that slipped by me. Congratulations to the Wisconsin Badgers for their 7th national championship. They took down conference rival Ohio State in the final, 1-0.
Didn't Sarah Nurse go to Wisconsin?
I think so.
Yeah, I think she is. I think she's a Badger. Anyways, go on. Wisconsin was kind of the underdog here. They were the 6th seed. So they had to play their way through one additional game because how the bracket works is, I'm looking at it on Wikipedia, you had 3 play-in games. The winner of there was the 10-8, the 9-7, and the 11-6 seeds played in to get to face the 1, the 2, and the 3 seeds. So Wisconsin took down LIU 9-1, then number 3 Colgate 4-2, then number 2 Minnesota 3-2 in overtime. Then Wisconsin beat number 1 Ohio State 1-0. So they had to go through the 3 seed, the 2 seed, and the 1 seed to win. And also shout out to Quinnipiac, who beat Penn State in triple overtime in the first round game. And then, of course, after that, they had to go and face Ohio State, and they lost, unfortunately. But shout out to them. Shout out to Wisconsin. And then I'm going to try and get BU in here soon to get his take on the men's hockey tournament, which kicks off this weekend, as a matter of fact. Who hosts the Frozen
tomorrow.
4 this year?
Tampa Bay.
Oh, it's back? I think the Lightning have hosted it
Yep,
a couple of times in like the last 6-7 years.
Yep, they're hosting it once again. They're hosting the semifinals and the finals. Your teams this year are the number 1 overall seed Minnesota, number 2 overall seed Quinnipiac, number 3 overall seed Michigan, number 4 overall seed Denver, and then Canisius, St. Cloud State, Minnesota State, Cornell, Boston, Boston University, Western Michigan, Colgate, Penn State, Michigan Tech, Merrimack, Harvard, and Ohio State. Looking good. I'll try and get BU's take on this coming up. Should be, as always, very interesting. So that's just kind of like a little primer for the game, for the tournament, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Okay. Alrighty. So, all right, cool. Oh, and then there was that wrestling one where that kid that I think had won like the other 3 championships, and his mom like snapped her glasses in half because she just couldn't bear to see the sight of him losing. Because he had
That was
like the NCAA record for like a winning streak or whatever.
Yeah, Spencer Lee. He's a wrestler for Iowa, I believe.
I think so. Yeah.
And from everything, I don't follow college wrestling all that much. Yep, it is Iowa. That was a bigger upset than perhaps than most March Madness upsets. The kid was basically unbeatable, and the fact that this random kid.
What was the school that the kid beat him from?
Purdue.
Ha, well, at least they won in something.
Matt Ramos, and Ramos or Ramos.
If it's
I'll say
Ramos, yeah, I would think.
Matt Ramos. Here's something kind of interesting, though. According to Wikipedia, Lee went on to forfeit his remaining tournament matches after that loss. Come on, dude. Just
a little extreme there, but okay.
Shush. Oh my god.
His mom freaking broke her glasses. My god. I mean, listen, I'm all for competitiveness and supporting your kid, but I hope those were just reader glasses and not prescription. Those things can get expensive.
Ooh, this is actually a fun question. Has there been any sporting event that make you guys break something or about to break something? Toss anything.
That made me want to break
that you've
something.
Watched. That made you so angry. Not like punching, like, you know, like
I talked about my most
emotional effect.
I talked about my most angry was like when the Panthers lost to the Winnipeg Jets in 2012, and it looked like they were not going to secure the Southeast Division, but they eventually did. They backed into the playoffs that year, but like they basically choked that game away, and I was just.
I felt like I've talked about this before, but things change.
But I don't think I've ever wanted to break anything, like destroy anything.
Like if you had something in your hand, you were so frustrated. Were you cursing, saying MFer, you know, particularly at a point?
Like the most would be like
that kind of heat.
The most would be like a plastic utensil or something like that. But I like anything of actual note, I wouldn't even break for sure. Like I ain't doing this.
So you're a robot. Good to know.
Yeah, you know.
I think I may have thrown my wallet once across the room, but nothing hard or something that could actually cause damage. I know when UCF came up short against Duke, and it wasn't out of anger, it was just out of, I don't know, frustration or sadness because they lost on a missed tip in. So I like slapped the floor. It was like, no. So it wasn't really out of anger, and it didn't break anything, but it was just, I don't know, frustration or whatever. But nah, I've never really broken anything.
I mean, it's just kind of it's like when people like break their video game controllers when they're pissed off and they lose. I'm like, how do you even do that? I've never had that kind of rage in gaming.
It's me versus Bowser Jr. right now in this damn game.
But, like, controllers are just expensive, man. I would never think of breaking them, for sure. But of course, like, I'm the collector standpoint. Like, I ain't. These things are pristine to me, you know. So yeah.
Papa can't break it.
Yeah, you're gonna pay $80 for a new set of Joy-Cons? No way.
Listen, I get a Pro controller at $70. Get the hell out of here. There's been games I kind of get into it, but yeah.
Oh,
I'll feel you.
Alrighty. Okay, so I did want to go to this. I guess it's kind of a new thing on the show. Uh, okay, so I did, on the group chat, I did put out a call because last weekend, last weekend, I was just around the house and stuff like that. I didn't do anything. It was like a garbage weekend for me. It just felt like garbage. I wanted to feel like garbage, and that's what I did. So, but I was trying to look for stuff to watch. I do have a new slice of life anime I'm going to start. So I will start that. So I'm happy about that because I needed something like that. But I put out a call because especially last year, I was trying to culture myself a little bit more. You guys always get on me for not watching movies and be like, how did you survive as a child? I'm like, I just played Sonic. That's all I did. So, but this past week, I put out the call for some movies. So I will watch some stuff over the weekend. For sure. I'll watch Tombstone. I think it was Tombstone, Heat, and I forgot what the other movie you guys wanted me to watch.
It was one of Andrew's.
I forgot what Andrew. I had it screenshotted, but yeah, but then I also put out the call. Not just I wanted to improve my earballs by getting some music recommendations. So Andrew completely lit up like a firework when he heard that. Like you were just jamming music recommendations down my throat. Like, slow down, please. I'm scared. But I did get. I'm gonna do this every week, once a week. I just one album from both of you. That way I get the disparaging different contrasts in genres and eras and stuff like that. I feel like that's a good thing. I can get a little bit of everything, get more well rounded for sure. From both of y'all. And so, Andrew, you had suggested to me to listen to Toto, right? So that's what I did. I looked for it on YouTube. I saved the playlist. The Toto 4. So I listed that album. So I did listen to it, Andrew. I did listen to all of the songs in the album, all right? So I did my homework. And I'm going to go down to my likes. I'm going to try and pick like 3 songs per album that I liked.
Are we calling this Frankly Frank?
Yeah, why not?
On the segment name?
Why not?
You can be frank with us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of been doing this on my solo podcast where I kind of just review the video games that I both acquired and beat in a month. So this is kind of something I want to do anyways. And we can do it on the show. It'll be fun. So of the 3 songs that I chose from you, Andrew, Rosanna. Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Because I've heard the song before, but I've never really paid attention to it. But, hey, man, you got the music video, got all this stuff. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm with this. I enjoy this. This was fun, right? Africa, okay. That's another, one that I've heard from before. But once again, I don't really pay attention to music. I kind of just listen to melodies and that's it. And I don't really pay attention to lyrics and stuff like that. But I'm trying to, pay attention to them, right? They're trying to get some meaning from the words for once, and then the other one, the third one that I picked was Lovers in the Night.
Oh, what's the great part about that song, though?
What?
The song before it was intended to be basically one song that would flow right into each other.
How the hell do you know this, man? Like, that's scary. It goes back to the original thing.
Oh, that's his thing, dude.
Boys, back in the day, with CDs and actual records, vinyl, the songs could flow into each other. That's kind of a lost art these days. But like one of my favorite songs is "Serious."
Is that why? Hold on. Is that why you like? Because I sent you like the actual playlist album that's on YouTube. but you sent me the one that's
That's
basically just
exactly
the entire
why.
thing
That's exactly
in one
why.
shot instead of just like it's like 1 hour long thing that you sent me that you just listened to it in one shot. So that's why you did that.
Exactly why, Francisco.
I see.
Because if it's spaced out like that, you don't get that flow. So like Sirius, aka the Chicago Bulls song, by Alan Parsons Project, that flows right into Eye in the Sky. Great two songs together. Or like Hard to Say I'm Sorry and Getaway by Chicago. Those you have to listen to together on the album because they intentionally flow it together. Or like, to a certain extent, We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions. They're technically two songs, and there is that blank space in between. So it could be split out, but it was
Also
intended
both
to flow
overrated.
as one song together.
Okay.
That's
Yes,
probably
Francis.
accurate.
Yes, Charles. I know my memory scares me too.
Yeah, I mean, well, something like that.
Okay.
A little
So
concerned.
there was a method to the madness. I'm like, why does this man send me the whole thing for like an hour long? Sheesh.
Like, but here's the thing. We know. Like CDs blend together. We are old men. We're older than you. But the fact that you
I
need
didn't know
particular
that.
songs,
I'm not
you
like
didn't
all I
know?
know is video games, man. That's and shows on Nickelodeon from the 90s.
Oh,
That was my thing.
This is
It was
basically
easier to
uncultured
do
swine.
back. It was easier to do back then because the whole thing was
On the
written
vinyl.
as essentially exactly. It was written as one line basically. So
Yeah.
you had that ability to flow things together. It's like I said, it's kind of a lost art today. The last album I could really think did it pretty well was probably American Idiot. I forget which two songs, but they flowed together pretty well. They actually did it twice. It was intended to be kind of like a rock opera. There were a couple of songs that did that, but like I
think
said,
it
you don't
was
really see it all
Boulevard
that much.
and Holiday because that's how they did the music videos. Back when music videos mattered.
Exactly. And then they added to it by merging the two music videos, which was great, like you mentioned.
Okay. Interesting. Well, those are the three songs that I liked, and I guess I'll have to re-listen the one song with Lovers in the Night and kind of maybe I'll get more of an appreciation for it by listening to those songs back to back, going into one and the other.
I am just curious, though. I don't want to say that that Africa is a cop out because it is a great song, but everyone's heard it.
I know,
If you had
but
to
this is what I
choose
like.
but if you
Still a
had to
good song.
choose one other song from the album,
Well, that's why I chose Lovers in the Night. Because I'm like, okay, these are the two popular ones. I've heard them before. I like them. And then I'm like, I got to pick one that's like, that I'd never heard before. And I hadn't heard that. So
Okay.
that one stuck out to me. That's why I chose that one. I'm like, that's why I'm like 3. Because like, mostly, especially if they're well known, like, 2 of those songs I probably would have heard from some other medium or something like that. Whereas there's probably a third, that I'm like, okay, I never heard of this before. I'm jamming with this. Let's go. Like that's why I'm picking 3 from the set here. So that's why I'm like, hey,
after the show, I want you to.
Oh,
after the
well,
show, I want
you
to
can make
stay
your
on for-
you can make your suggestion now for the next one if you want. But like, let's go. Listen, this is the next one.
Yeah, the cage is gonna be a short segment, so by all means.
I'll make the next suggestion in the chat.
Okay. Well, in any case, so those are the 3, and then I listened to the ones you gave me, Charles, from Capital Cities. What was it? The gosh darn mysteries.
Tidal Wave Mysteries.
Tidal Wave Mysteries. There we go.
Tidal Wave
So-
Mysteries.
Yeah, so I listened to that one, and so these are the 3 that I picked. Like videos, where is it? Okay, here
If
we
it
go.
ain't Kangaroo Court, just kick me out of this group.
I, I, well, I didn't pick that one, so you can leave now.
That is a really nice song. I like that song. I haven't heard the full album, but I've heard a couple of their songs.
It's
I
pretty
did.
good. I would say one or two songs don't deserve to be there, but everything else is good.
Safe and Sound, because I've heard that one before from like commercials and stuff for like I think car insurance. So I've heard that one before. And okay, I like that. That's fine.
They've also been in a Taco Bell song.
Oh, okay. And then I picked
the music video for that one gives me the feels.
Yeah, they're a little weird, but in a good artistic way.
And then I picked Patience Gets Us Nowhere Fast.
Good song, yeah.
So I picked that one. And then I picked Farrah Fawcett Hair.
Oh my god, yeah, it's good shit. Oh, even has Andre 3000 up in this.
Yeah, I noticed him. So I was like, oh, okay. All right, I like this. Okay. So those are the three that I picked for that one.
I'd never heard of that song before, but that's an interesting title because there's a song from the 80s by, I forget her name, Kim something, called Betty Davis Eyes.
Yeah, Betty Davis Eyes, yeah.
So I wonder, that has to be a reference.
Oh, no. It's just its own gig, man. It's very like obscure.
But at least the name. At least the name sounds like a bit of a hat tip.
You see, that's why I kind of had this idea. I'm like, because it gets us engaged. Because like me and Charles are always harping on the gaming and stuff like that. All right, let's get some music. And now you guys are jamming with the music. I don't know what you guys are talking about, but I'm enjoying the discourse. So that's why I decided to do that, and the movies too. Because I don't watch movies. It's kind of been my thing, I just haven't really been watching them. I did TV and film in high school and stuff like that, but I grew an appreciation for some movies for sure from way back when, but I just haven't made an effort as an adult to go out and see movies unless Sonic the Hedgehog or Batman was in it. So that was my thing with that, and I'm glad this was.
You love your Batman.
Well, yeah, I do. I've been watching some analyzing of the Batman again. So once again, so every every nook and cranny of that 3-hour long film. So, but in any case,
here's the thing that you're gonna hate me for because you played the Telltale games. That game is open and shut, basically a rehash of the Telltale games. Oh, that movie.
I haven't.
To a degree.
I had season 2 on my my backlog, the one that I want to recently get to, but I haven't gotten to it. I'm just not feeling it right now. I will feel Batman later on, but right now Batman, I'm not going to feel him right now. Just not feeling him.
Oh,
so
no, April 1st, you have to get differently.
Well, Mario's coming, so that's Bayonetta's coming as well. Hold on. So I was gonna. And yeah, the movies were Tombstone, right? Heat, and what was the other one?
Andrew had an Adam Sandler one,
and then I think you certainly was not like Mike.
Yeah, no, because I threw shit on that.
Let's see. I think he said Romeo Must Die as well.
Romeo Must Die is a bad movie. Andrew would agree with me on that one. It's just one of those things where it just has to happen. It just has to happen. And
you just wanted me to see DMX's horrible acting. Yeah. Rest in peace, by the way.
If he's in that one or he's in another one.
He was in a couple movies in that early 2000 stuff. I know I saw one movie that had him in it. I know for sure, but I don't think it was. I don't think I watched Romeo Must Die because Aaliyah was in this one, and I don't remember seeing her.
Yes.
So also rest in peace. So there you go.
Kratos of the Grave. That's the freaking.
That's the movie that I saw.
The movie DMX.
Yes. Jet Li's in that one too, right?
You also have not seen Deep Blue. Yeah, you have also not seen Deep Blue Sea, where you have Cool J to say "Deepest Bluest, my hat is like a shark tail."
I've seen bits of Deep Blue Sea because it was on cable and stuff like that, but I've never sat down and watched the whole film. I just know that Dave Chappelle's sketches. It ate me. A fucking shark ate me. That's all I remember. Samuel Jackson's. But that's it. That's All right, so those are the movies that I got on my radar for this weekend. So I will report back with that because I didn't get a chance to watch the movies because of the World Baseball Classic and stuff like that. So, so we're at an hour and 50 minutes. By the way, Andrew, have you beaten GoldenEye?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, alrighty, good stuff. All right, go play Donkey Kong Country too.
And then play 3.
Or and play 1 as well if you feel like it. Okay, so that's
just play them all.
Yeah. Well, they do flow into each other as well because they are all back to back. It's a storyline.
It's one long story.
Yeah, it is. So that
and then you get to play
just
as
think the video game equivalent of Toto. Then there you go. Okay, hour 50. So let's head on over to the cage and try and get out of here. Alrighty.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Your weekly Truplex The Cage with Charles. Remember, wrestling is not fake. It's scripted. It's a stage fight. It's a song and dance, contrary to what superstar Billy Graham says. It's poetry in motion. It's a soap opera. It's about men and women want to beat the holy hell out of each other, chase their legacies, chase championships, establish their legacies, and just give me a good old time sometimes when it's there and then not there, right? Because, wrestling, it's a 7-day-a-week, 365 endeavor. You have so many promotions now with WWE, AEW, New Japan, Impact, Ring of Honor is back, even though I call it AEW too. I know that pisses people off who are really into tribalism or wrestling, but when you keep using AEW signed wrestlers in Ring of Honor, I'm gonna call it AEW 2 until you actually get your own signed people. But wrestling, a lot of promotions out there is always good for the business, right? Because there's a lot of independent workers or people who just need to have jobs. Not everybody could be. Hell, you could barely use the entire roster in WWE. So when you look back on reflection of 4 years ago of where it was, it's good to have that kind of expansion. And boys, we're gonna do a little bit differently here. We're never really gonna talk about Impact anymore, unfortunately. But eventually we will. Eventually, I'll give some highlights. Impact and AEW are working with New Japan Wrestling, and we should get the highlight to Japan, right? Because God knows Japan won World Baseball, and for a long time it was the best provider of wrestling the last several years. Kind of still gives you good matches, but things get stale. You have to build new stars. It's always kind of tough. We'll talk about that in a second. But they're going to have joint promotions again in June. There's going to be Forbidden Door 2 with New Japan and AEW. And in later this month, or I think in April, is going to be Multiverse of Matches or Madness, where it's going to be Impact versus New Japan. Don't have the whole roster yet. Don't have the whole things. It might be one of those things where I create like a sub Charles video for the cage just to kind of get it in there. I wonder if we have one more. We can talk about it, but we'll talk about now. Factor 75. You don't want to deal with your fast food stuff or eat nasty burgers like me. You want something clean, pure, and enjoyable, just like my wrestling. Get yourself some of those. Get what you can. Get the subscriptions. Go from there. When you don't have to rely onto a Publix app, go and use Factor 75, right? Is it the same number? Yeah. It's always the same number. It never changes, right?
Yeah.
So back to it. They're going to do that. Do I want to invest money into it? No. Does it give me an opportunity to have dream matches? Yes. Do I think there's going to be any fair booking? Obviously not. When it comes to AEW versus New Japan, there were some good matches that they had last year, such as the Fatal 4-Way that led to Adam Cole's concussion. But I'm interested in seeing if they're actually going to get Mercedes Moné, formerly known as Sasha Banks, in there to defend the New Japan Women's Championship against whomever they might have, whether it be Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker, what have you, and then what they're going to do. But so that's coming up on the horizon. Let's talk about New Japan. The J Cup happened, and is that the New Japan Cup or the J Cup happened? And Multiverse United. So scratch us. Impact, New Japan, Multiverse United. The final was Sonata versus Dave Finlay, and I feel like I have to catch you guys up on some stuff. So Bullet Club 444 Life was a rendition that had been going on for many years. It's a faction that had a lot of kind of Gaishin competitors, Gaishin meaning foreigners. It was compiled like everybody. It feels like your modern day NWO. It's good, it's bad, it's whatever. The leader, Jay White, who we like. Follow us on Twitter, Jay. Charles the True, Dan Friholius, FJOJR. The Sports Goofs, one of them is an underscore somewhere in there. He left. He's out. Good. He's going to go be a free agent, explore new contracts. He's probably going to AEW. So they put in David Finlay, who is the son of Fit Finlay. Well, we love Fit Finlay. from WWE. So it was him versus Sonata. Sonata turned heel. He left Los Ingobernables de Japan, which is very sad. He changed from having the blonde hair and the blonde beard to this very suave Yakuza-looking guy. I'm not saying Yakuza as in the gang. I'm talking about Yakuza as in what Francisco and I play. And I think he has it, man. Like, he won. A lot of people thought it was going to be Finlay, but they made the right call to have it be Sonata. Now he's part of a new faction, which they call Just Five Guys, which cracks me up because as American, you see David Finlay right there coming out like a bad Terminator vibe. I'm not feeling it. We'll talk about that in a second. But going with Sonata, he won. He's going to go against Okada and Sakura Genesis. I really hope he wins. I like Okada, but Okada can't always be your fallback to holding the main championship, which we call the Decepticon title, because look at that belt. When you don't have anything to kind of build it, you got to create new stars. Sonata, New Japan's so inconsistent with their booking where they can have someone hold a title and then lose it, or they hold it for too long, or they have a guy which you think they're going to build in to be a challenger. And when we're talking about booking, we're talking about story booking, right? We're building in, we're telling the story, we're putting in the beats, and then it just dies. So they might, like, they'll have champions who lose a big title and they'll just go win a smaller title. It doesn't fit. And the same thing goes with challengers. And like I said, it's just kind of time to take a chance. And the problem is, last time they took a chance, when the COVID era happened, they gave the title to Evil, and that wasn't working. Evil is a wrestler, married to Io Shirai, but it was just not working. Poor Evil. He's probably a good mid-card, but you can't put the double title on him. He beat my boy Naito, of all people. I can't have that happen. But I feel bad for Finlay because obviously it's not like he's politicking. It's not like he's Hulk Hoganing. For whatever reason, Gato, who is the booker in New Japan, said, we're going to put him as the leader. And the Twitterverse, and I've said it kind of time and time again, it should not be a platform, and that's the only like social media I use. So that's kind of like where I'm going to attack it on. But I'm sure the IWC Internet Wrestling community is out there in many factions. This is not a vessel for you to kind of bully people and wrestlers and call them trash and just insult them and say all these terrible things about them. They're realistically, I'm going to give you some insight. They're performers or actors giving a script, and they're just honoring the script. There, it is not 1970s, 80s wrestling in the territories where Ric Flair and Hogan and to a degree other wrestlers were saying, I need to win, I lose. That's not going to work for me, brother. That's Hulk Hogan right there. They put on Finlay. They feel like Finlay's going to be there. And it got so bad where they were putting the bullying, the harassment, things like that. The guy deactivated his Twitter. Now, mind you, he could deactivate for many different reasons, but I'm just connecting the dots. So you shouldn't do it because at the end of the day, these are performers who are looking off of you. I wouldn't say he's trash. He's not my cup of tea, but that's because he just got put into a faction out of nowhere. So there's a story logistics behind it. But these guys are still, especially with the legacy they has with Finlay, these guys are still better performers than we're ever going to be. And I can take with the opinion where they're just like, this guy's like the way his attire is like a second rate, whatever. I'm like, that's fine. Because you are in charge of your gear. But the way they'll kind of go is like further and further. You'll see that with how they comment on women's wrestlers and all this other stuff. And I'm just going to go back into it. I don't know if I talked about Hannah like 2 years ago. She was a Stardom wrestler, Hannah Kimura. I can never say it correctly, but she committed suicide from the bullying that was going on, cyberbullying from just the internet and everything like that. She probably may have had other issues. I'm not going to speculate, but it's that toxic culture that we talk about. So whether it be athletes, whether it be sports entertainers, performers, musicians, whatever, like we need to chill a little bit of being assholes, to put our 2 cents. You can say you didn't like something. You can say it sucked. You can say it goes from there. But, I can tell you who washed human beings are and terrible human beings are. I can tell you in the professional wrestling world, it's like the Chris Benoit's or Ultimate Warrior. And one day I think I might have gone into detail why I don't like Warrior, but that's just me. But Finlay hasn't done anything. He's not, doing these other things. He's not. I won't go into detail for the specifics of wrestlers in the past because that's opening up a can of worms here. We are a sports show, everybody. But y'all need to chill. All I'm saying, it ain't that deep. Going into other aspects of wrestling, AEW, we haven't talked about a little bit. So I'm interested. As I've been saying to Andrew and Francisco, we love us some MJF. I feel sometimes his promos have gotten a little bland since he's been champion, but last week was his rebar mitzvah on Dynamite. And you guys can watch Dynamite tonight on TBS. It's going on right now. And I was like, what are they going to do here? And my favorite gift that I sent to you, Andrew, was the whole, you got me all Meshuggah up in this bitch. So what the hell does Meshuggah mean? Because I watched The Nanny when I was a kid, but not all the terminology translated over. So do you know what Meshuggah means?
I feel like...
Unfortunately, It takes pretty much everyone a second because nothing quite translates exactly, but I'd say it's kind of like crazy almost.
Yeah,
feel
so
like-
according to Google, the word comes from Yiddish term mashuganer, which is based on the adjective mashuga, meaning crazy or nonsensical. So, all right, we got that because, it reminds me of the word cabron in Spanish, where it has many tiered layers of what it could mean.
It depends
And
on
we're
how
like,
you
are
say
you
it, the
calling me a goat? Are
inflection,
you
all
calling
that
me a
stuff. Yeah.
bastard? Or are you calling me,
Yeah.
there's like 3 different words. Like, if I call you a huevon, you're a fucking testicle. That's what you are, bud. There is no anything that comes into it. Because cabron's like that thing where you can even be a term of endearment. And I'm just like, really? Okay. Anyway. So he had his rebar mitzvah, and the whole question was he just had this iron match with Bryan Danielson. I almost said his old WWE Daniel Bryan. And I'm like, who is going to be the challenger? Well, they brought everybody out because the thing that they did about a year into AEW was said, hey, these are going to be our 4 pillars. And that was Jungle Boy, that was Sammy Guevara, that was Darby Allin, and that was MJF. Well, out of the 4, you now finally have somebody who has held the main title, which is MJF. Sammy and Darby have held the TNT title, which is their mid-card title, multiple times. And then Jungle Boy has won the tag titles. He has just come across from beating Christian Cage, that Christian from WWE, WWF days. The promos were good. It was good. If you're going to set me up for a fatal 4-way, I'm all for it. If you're going to set me up with MJF going against all these guys, that's fine. It's one of those blended elements where two guys are heels, 2 guys are faces, but I'm okay with heels versus heels and faces versus faces to establish number 1 contenderships, or just going for a championship. Like that's kind of like the ultimate prize. The ultimate prize of wrestling shouldn't be like, I'm a bad guy who's going to do bad things. At the end of the day, you're always employed, and you still want to, at some way, shape, or form, go to a championship. There's only a few select wrestlers I say that person never needs to hold a title in their life because they're a different era, or a different kind of specialty, which I'll give case in point, like Bray Wyatt over in WWE. I think the worst decision that Vince made was putting the title on the Fiend multiple times, because now he lost that effect, and now Bray's not doing anything, and he's hurt, and his WrestleMania match is canceled. More on that in a second. But I'm interested because these guys are good performers. MJF versus Darby I've seen before at Revolution 2 Novembers ago, and I thought that was like maybe a second match of the night, but it was good. MJF can go, Darby can go. Sammy, even though he has a very punchable face, and trust me, he's a very punchable guy. He got popped up a little bit by Andrade, and that's why Andrade's suspended along with being injured. He's got talent. Jungle Boy, it's in between. So fun fact about Jungle Boy, he is Luke Perry's son. They utilize that his father is deaf in the storyline between him and Christian. Jungle Boy, to me, kind of needs more seasoning for me to say, hey, you're a legitimate champion or title contender, but wrestling's subjective. Sometimes there's people who you view as being, the guy or the gal and possibly being a champion, and then there's what they write to the script and put in front of you. And you have to kind of like work with it and see how it adapts. It's a little bit like jazz. You can go with the notes, but sometimes you got to improvise a little bit. But I'm interested in that. AEW's kind of been like in between. I know the last time we did the show, I was like, guys, I'm bored by wrestling. But now I'm getting into the spirits again, because you have, and this is not a just whole WWE household over here, fellas. I'll watch anything if I have the time to do it. The problem is there's just so much right now. There's like 13 days worth of wrestling that's coming up that is just very tough for me to do on. And I know I'm on a little bit of that vacay PTO. I will not be spending a lot of my time watching, but I am at least getting it back into the aspects of AEW and going from there. The women's championship, they got to figure out what's going on there with Jamie Hayter and who she's going to challenge. Because right now it's her and Britt Baker and Riho going against the Outcasts, which is Saraya and Ruby, and then Tony Storm, people who were not AEW originals coming over. They're going to set up for a blood and guts match. I don't really care. TNT title, I don't know what the hell's going on. Wardlow and Hobbs are still feuded, not feuding. Like I have disagreements on that. And also there's just so many different championships, because you have the AEW International Championship, which was the All Atlantic Championship, which they redubbed so quickly. There's good performers in there. I wish Tony Khan was a little bit more consistent. I don't care enough about what's going on in the tag team division. The matches are good, but the Guns are your champions. They're going to go against FTR. Are we can kind of segue that? What I do care about, though, the Trios Championship. You see, there's so many titles I have to talk to you guys about. The Trios titles, which is a 3-man group. So, like, if we challenge, we can get the Trios title because there's 3 of us. It's now held by House of Black, which is Malachi Black, Brody King, and then Buddy Matthews. Let them hold the belts that long, TK. They just took out the Elite a couple weeks ago at the pay-per-view. They had a pretty decent triple threat match against them and the JAS. It was a little bit screwy, but I can get behind it. I don't know what we're doing, Jade Cargill. We're looking at the banner right now. I really think she should just vacate the title and go after Jamie Hayter. She's undefeated. She's had 52 wins, 0 losses. You know, you can say, hey, I'm going to drop this, get this, and you can have her versus Jamie, and you can make that decision of what you want to do. Because the problem is that I feel that TBS title, which is the women's secondary title, has been slightly elevated more than the women's title because I don't like sometimes main titles being feuded with a whole grasp of people that no one's challenging it. If it becomes a faction war and you're fighting because you hate each other, but no one wants a shot at your title, then does the title matter, right? That's like making Japan versus US an exhibition game instead of being the finals of the World Baseball Classic. Look how I brought that shit together, guys. Holy crap. It has to mean something. And the worst thing that you can do, to me, there's the rule of kayfabe, but you never break kayfabe. But the biggest, worst thing that you could do to me is that you have a title get diminished by not being a proponent of the story. That's not saying you can't build good stories in a faction war and have the title still there. Case in point, someone pins the current champion Jamie Hayter in that eventual blood and guts match between, the Outcasts and then the AEW Originals. That person could be in line for a story to become champion and get a title shot. You can work with that, but you can't have titles fall back. And if you have the TBS title by Jade Cargill, who is just, I think she's really good. I think she has a lot of potential, and she has lived some of that potential now. There's more so. If she's kind of outshining, but she's not on TV that much, it kind of hurts in the structure. I also think the mid-card title for the women's division doesn't work as much in comparison to doing a women's tag team championships, because you don't have it. And I think you could do it better than what the WWE does, because WWE is just not doing anything with Damage Control, who is holding their women's tag titles. And then also the NXT championships, women's tag team championships is not good either. Sorry. But AEW has my interest. We'll follow up. I'll always be looking at the Twitter and building into it. And then we'll go to WWE, because I'm not going to spend too much time on WWE, because we know next week it's going to be the entire cage. It is WrestleMania. It is going to be predictions. And let me tell you guys my plight, because it's not just WrestleMania. It's also the NXT pay-per-view Stand and Deliver. Saturday and Sunday is going to be hell for me, because Saturday I'm going to watch that NXT pay-per-view. And
I have seen Stand and Deliver, by the way.
I have to miss WrestleMania. Yeah. Edward James Olmos. Good movie. Good movie. Fantastic. Fantastic movie. And then, fantastic movie. How do I reach these kids? And then you have WrestleMania Night 1, and I can't watch that because I have to do the charity event thing. And then comes Night 2 WrestleMania. So my Sunday is going to be all day WrestleMania, man. I just got to break it apart. I am going to suffer for the goodness of my enjoyment and for you guys and for everybody who listens out there to do predictions. But here is what I will tell you about WrestleMania. It could possibly be a banger for 3 reasons. 1, I don't have Bray Wyatt versus Bobby Lashley going against each other now. Bray, unfortunately, is hurt. That story wasn't making any sense to me. And sometimes if you're putting up WrestleMania as the definitive and the classic, it kind of feels like how you should have the Super Bowl makes sense if it's the number 1 seed on both sides, right? Not always the best argument, but sometimes it makes sense. Like 2 legitimate powerhouses. That's the best way I can explain to you. Or how about this? I'll make it even better. You're true number 1s in boxing with champion and contender, as opposed to mandatory interim fights for anybody who follows the combat sports. You see that happen too often. It's disappointing. It's a tune-up match, basically. I want the real stuff. It's basically getting Floyd and Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao at their prime, as opposed to years delay. That's how I would best equate it to you. It was not there. The story wasn't there. And when it comes to WrestleMania, it matters. Maybe on a throwaway pay-per-view. So I hope Bray gets better. I hope they fix his character. Bobby Lashley can find something else to do. Sure. But the other highlights we're going to go on, the 2 other big things I'm coming into, and there's more, but WrestleMania could be very good, or it could be too stacked. That's the problem with 2 night pay-per-views. If night 1 is better than night 2, I'm going to bitch about it night 2. If night 2 is better than night 1, I'm going to be like, why did I waste that time on night 1? So I guess I'm stuck watching all day, right, boys? But first off, the Bloodline feud is just now coming into full culmination. You got Roman and Cody. I still think Roman's cooking Cody in them promos, but I'm a little bit invested now. My problem with the Cody booking is Cody has only wrestled 2 guys since he came back from the Royal Rumble, Baron Corbin and LA Knight, and both of those guys are mid-card at best. Middle mid-card, not mid as in lackey, but middle mid-card. So how am I going to propel to a guy who beat Seth Rollins in June, the last match? Torres Peck was gone for 5, 6, 7, 8 months. Comes back and win the Royal Rumble, but he was entry number 30. It's not like he came back as the number 1 guy. So let's not get that twisted, right? But if he hasn't beat anybody who can at least make me think he can knock on Roman's door, the same Roman who's beaten Brock, the same Roman who has beaten Kevin Owens multiple times, the same Roman who beat Drew McIntyre. Yes, he's getting help and stuff like that, but work with me here. He's beating established guys, and Cody's just beating mid-card people how is that going to make me think it? You know what I mean? So that's why they kind of interwoven Owens and Sammy, which brings into part 2. The tag match is going to be better than the heavyweight championship match. I'm just saying. You're going to have the Usos versus Owens and Sammy. I'm really hoping that's all on night 2 since I can't be there for night 1. How we got here, Andrew, to summarize it, many, many months ago, Sammy walked into the locker room and wanted to be snivelly to the cool kids. And it took a lot of time for him to get accepted. And Jay didn't trust him. And then Jimmy loved him. Solo got to him. Roman got to like him. There was a time in Canada where Jay and Jimmy could be there for the obvious criminal arrest. And Solo couldn't be there for whatever reason. So Sammy had to help out, beat up Drew McIntyre a little bit. Sammy's had their back. There was the War Games match where he did betray Kevin Owens, but he cemented his relationship with the Bloodline for them, gave Jay the pin. Everybody accepted him. Everybody loved him. He went from being the honorary Uso to Sammy Uso, basically. It was fantastic. And then he just couldn't pull the trigger against his boy Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble, where Roman was trusting or having concerns about his loyalty and said, hey, hit him with the chair. He says, I can't do it. You're better than this. And then he hit Roman first instead of Roman attacking them because Sammy was like, well, F it anyway. Basically, all right, if I could best explain it, my nerdy self, Sami Zayn went out Stringer Bell style in The Wire. Well, if there's nothing I can do to change your mind, get on with it. And he just got lit up. And then he had that fantastic match at Elimination Chamber, which is, at the moment, my WWE match of the year. Until the third thing that could make me very, very happy. Guys, we are getting international triple threat patty, beef patty. And I am so ready. Vince McMahon doesn't always give me what I want. Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque seems to give me what I want. And he's going to be Gunther versus Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre. You mean the same Gunther and Sheamus who gave me my match of the year last year at Clash of the Castle for the Intercontinental Championship? Yep. Are you going to be dudes who have wrestled and have produced good matches when it was Sheamus versus Drew McIntyre several times? Yep. And they're going to be a triple threat rules? Yep. And it's going to be for a championship? Yep. And you have the possibility of like Gunther still retaining to break the Honky Tonk Band's record, who shouldn't really have that record to begin with because Honky Tonk was more of a character than an actual pro wrestler? Yep. And is it going to be fantastic? Yep. Is it going to be a banger? Absolutely. And if I don't get more than 22 minutes of that match, am I going to cry? Yep. Am I going to get relief if I see that match go 20 plus? Yep. Am I going to be a happy camper while I watch the international quad patty of Austria and Ireland and Scotland go at it? Yep. Am I ready for it? Absolutely. Because that's all I've been telling you guys I've been wanting for what? A month and a half? And then it happens. I sent you guys my reaction. It's the Michael Jordan used to believe in, or I used to pray for times like this. I'm so excited for that match. Because it's going to be a mixture of actual wrestling with guys beating the shit out of each other. That's how it's supposed to go. Because I believe those three men could whoop my ass. And I will be standing there on Sunday when I first start watching it at like 1 p.m. and then I'll take a break because, the second part's going to be there at 7. But the thing is, I'm going to have that all digested. And that might affect all the other matches come out because I think between that and the tag match, whoo, buddy. But we'll digest more into WWE next week because it is going to be an all WWE show in NXT. NXT Stand Deliver, it's in between. It could be a banger of a card. But I'm ready, boys. I'm ready for it. And that's all I got for you this week on The Cage.
Alrighty. Okay. Well, I think that's it for us, everybody. So, yep. Good on. I enjoyed this one. It was very nice. So we will see you guys next time. Take care.
Take it easy.
Take care.
Goofs is over, get out of here, go do something. Or at least a week, then Charles and Drew and Francisco, you crave and seek Taco Bell time.